Welcome back. Welcome back. You man, Diamond K in here. Diamond K in the morning, 8 a.m. But we're doing a special show tonight. We're going to be talking about mental health. Mental health is something that is very important. And a lot of people misunderstand mental health. Even myself, at one time, I think that I defined it very narrowly. And mental health is something that is broad. It is something that covers a lot of ground. Mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, how we feel, how we act, how we speak. It also helps determine how we can handle stress. Now, some people handle stress very easily. I think I handle stress pretty good. I think that I thrive in a stressful situation, but everybody's not like that, right? Mental health determines how people handle stress, how you relate to others, how you make choices, decisions, moves. Mental health is important in every stage of your life, from childhood to adolescence, through adulthood, through your golden years. Mental health, important. So when we talk about mental health, what are signs of somebody that's struggling with mental health? A lot of different signs, a lot of different things that can be an indicator of where somebody is with regards to their mental health. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some of the signs, some of the symptoms of someone with some mental challenges, mental illness, warning signs. We're going to talk about that. So what brought this conversation up? Why are we discussing this topic? More specifically, directly, Simone Biles, who is the Olympian superstar. Some people say she is the best in the world, the GOAT. That's what she's being labeled as. So, of course, some people are saying, she is a top tier athlete, top of the game, top of the food chain. How can she have any mental health challenges? That's what some people are saying. And I think that it is a fair question to ask if you don't know what mental health is. If you don't know the parameter that mental health can and does include. So we're talking about a top tier, top level athlete, world class. Simone Biles withdraws from individual all around gymnastics competition at the Tokyo Olympics to focus on what? To focus on mental well-being. What I was talking about earlier, how you handle stress. And she's under a lot of stress. So she's a superstar defending her Olympic championship. She withdrew today from individual all-around competition at the Tokyo Games. So she's young, or mid-20s, right? So you may ask, why didn't she do this before she got all the way to Tokyo? She's holding that seat up for somebody who's hungry, who may have their mental health in order. Why was she even there? right? This decision came a day after Biles removed herself from the team final, following one rotation on vault. She cited her mental health as the reason when speaking to the media following the competition. So someone can say, what? That's not mental health. She just quit. She quit. And she's disguising it. She's disguising it as mental health. And if you were to say that, I wouldn't say that you're necessarily wrong, but what I would say is that's just part of the story. All right. Maybe, did you ever see Rocky? So once he got to the top of the food chain, once after he went through the struggles to get the title and become a champion, then he's what they call eating fat on the hog. He's kicking back. He's not training. He's going to parties. He's doing all these things, not the things that he did when he was on the rise. It happens to a lot of athletes. Could this have been something that she experienced? Possibly. And then when she gets to Tokyo, she's not as good as she thought, or the competition was better, or she was second guessing herself because maybe she didn't train as well as she did 4 years ago. Could be it. I'm not going to dispute whether that is the fact or not. And maybe seeing that, she felt that she could not be up to where she was, and she already is under a lot of pressure, and she decided to withdraw herself. That could be the case. Now, what was the mental state that got her to the point of wanting to withdraw? That is her mental health. That's what we're talking about when we talk about mental health. What brought her? How did she handle the stress? How is she dealing with the stress? So after further medical evaluation, she withdrew. So does she need some counseling? Does she need to speak to someone? Yeah, she does. And what you have to understand, and she's young, but you can be older and still not know this, is she can only do what she can do, right? And many athletes, many Olympic athletes deal with the pressure of that athletic role. Now, one thing I am glad about is that no one on her teammates were not talking greasy about her. They were not. They supported her decision. They supported her. They applauded her bravery to prioritize her well-being. Her well-being. Very important. Very important. Now, it does take courage to do this because, people going to be talking crazy. Initially, I was thinking like, oh my goodness, what is going on here? Then I thought about it. She is under a lot of pressure. And just because you or myself can handle the stress, day-to-day stress, the stress of your life, that doesn't mean that everybody can handle the same amount of stress. And she's under a whole lot of stress. She's under more stress than me. She's probably under more stress than you. And how she handles it right now, but might not be the same way she would handle it 4 years from now. And 4 years from now, she might be too old to compete. And she may look back on this time and regret not going forward. Or she may look back on this time and say she's thankful that she pulled out when she did. She might say that. Who are we talking about? Just tuning in, your man Don McKay in here. And we're doing a special edition, and we're talking about stress, mental health. And we're also talking about the superstar athlete, Simone Biles, and her decision to pull back, withdraw from the Olympics. Defending world champion, right? She's not just some what you call geek off the street. right? She's the real deal. Real deal athlete, takes it serious, at the top of her game. And she's having a problem with mental health. So does that mean that you or me can't have a problem with mental health? Absolutely we can. And it's more than likely something that is a reality. Now, all the time we're not able to recognize when we need to pull back, because you may be worried about what someone else may think about you, what someone else may take from your decision. And in many instances, that adds to the stress level. That adds to the mental health challenge that you may be facing. So I'm sure that it took a lot of thought and a lot of consideration for her to get to the point that she did what she did. So a lot of people talking crazy online. I've seen people talking crazy about her online, and a lot of people supporting her. She had been the overwhelming favorite to repeat as individual all-around champion. She probably was going to win. Well, everybody else thought that, but she may not have thought that. Her status was left in doubt earlier this week. She told the media she wasn't sure if she would be able to compete on today. So initially, a lot of people said, well, maybe she's injured. She put that to rest. She's not injured. She said that. She's not injured. And initially, I thought one thing, but after talking it over, thinking about it deeper, I realized she made the right decision. And whatever we may think, you want America to win the gold and all of that kind of stuff, her personal well-being is more important. Because if you don't have your head all the way in the game, right? She's not a professional librarian, right? She's a gymnast. Her life is on the line, and if her head's not in the game, this is a threat. This is a threat to her life if she's not in the game mentally. 24 years old, came to Tokyo as arguably the face of the games. She's the face. So when you talk about pressure, that's a lot of pressure. Everybody can't handle the pressure, right? So you look at Michael Jordan under immense pressure all the time, self-imposed pressure, right? He put the team on his back for years, and he was motivated by stuff that happened in his childhood. This coach said this, this coach said that, this coach picked this person over him, and he used that as fuel. And then different players may have said something crazy or did something he didn't like, and he used that as fuel. So sometimes we look at those people that can handle the pressure and say everybody's supposed to do it like that. Kobe handled pressure. LeBron handles pressure. Muhammad Ali handled pressure. Why can't you handle pressure, right? Everybody's not the same. It took a long time for me to understand that in my own life, right? So I have a background in IT. And sometimes people would ask me questions and I would be frustrated. Why are they asking me this? This is a basic question. Why don't they know the answer to this? Right? And I would get frustrated. I would talk to my father about it. I'm saying, damn, these people are trying to play me. Why they asking me these questions and they already know the answer? Everybody knows this and whatever it was. But everybody doesn't know. And it took me a while to understand that everybody doesn't know. And everybody can't handle stress. And everybody is not the same. So you can't judge a person because they're different than you. We can't sit here and judge her because she is at a point that she felt she needed to pull back. We can't judge her. I'm not going to judge her. I don't think you should judge her either. You met Dom McKay in here at the Diamond K Show, at Radio on Fire. So some warning signs of mental illness: sleep or appetite changes, dramatic sleep and appetite changes, or a decline in personal care. Mood changes. These are some warning signs. Rapid or dramatic shifts in emotions or depressed feelings. Withdrawal. Recent social withdrawal. Loss of interest in activities previously enjoyed. Now, I think that is something that's happening here. Some of her teammates said that they noticed that something was wrong, something was different. It is a drop in functioning, an unusual drop in functioning at school, work, social activities, such as quitting sports, failing in school, or difficulty performing familiar tasks. Problems thinking, problems with concentration, memory, or logical thought and speech that are hard to explain. Increased sensitivity. Some other signs: heightened sensitivity to sights, sounds, smells, or touch. Avoidance of overstimulating situations. These are all things, clear, examples of what it appears that this young athlete is going through. Apathy, loss of initiative or desire to participate in any activity. This is, textbook stuff that we're seeing from Miss Biles. Feeling disconnected, a vague feeling of being disconnected from oneself or one's surroundings, a sense of unreality. Illogical thinking, unusual or exaggerated beliefs about personal powers to understand meanings or influence events, illogical or magical thinking, typical of childhood in an adult. All right? Nervousness, fear, or suspiciousness of others, or a strong nervous feeling. Lastly, unusual behavior, odd, uncharacteristic behavior. Some signs and symptoms of mental illness. And that's a word right there that may scare people, right? But we're talking about mental health. And how you handle things, how you're dealing with things, how things are affecting you. That's what we're talking about here. Diamond K in here, radioonfire.com. Of course, miss any episodes of our programs, you can always search the Diamond K Show, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Stitcher, Spotify, WRF Radio, radioonfire.com, youtube.com/DJ Diamond K, etc., etc. But I wanted to really talk about mental health, not a subject that I get to discuss often. Quite honestly, it's not something that I get to talk about often. But we're talking mainly, what brought this subject on is the Olympic athlete, star athlete, with the pressure of the world on her back, Simone Biles. She posted on social media earlier this week that she felt the weight of the world on her shoulders. She posted this to social media. The weight became too heavy after vaulting during team finals. She lost herself in midair and completed a one and a half twist instead of 2.5. She consulted with the U.S. team doctor before walking off the field of play. When she returned, she took off her bar grips. She hugged her teammates and turned into the team's head cheerleader as the U.S. claimed the silver behind Russia's Olympic Committee. So the decision leaves the door wide open for the all-around title that was long considered a foregone conclusion. She doesn't have her head in the game, and what is fascinating about this is that this can be a teachable moment. There are many people that have less weight per se, but your individual weight in your own life can feel as heavy as the weight that she is bearing. So I don't want to just say just because she's an Olympic athlete and you work at Chick-fil-A that her weight is any less heavy than yours, right? Any less heavy than yours. Mental health, that's what we're talking about. I had a very good friend of mine that committed suicide. I don't talk about this too often, but I do talk about it from time to time. I had a good friend that committed suicide. And this is way before mental health was even in the conversation. I didn't understand what was going on. He had a tough breakup, and he reached out to me for conversation about it. And, you know, and I entertained the conversation. I was with him when he met the girl, and I didn't think that it was a good matchup personally, right? I felt that she dated more street guys, and he wasn't a street guy, right? And but she gave him a shot. They dated for a time. The guy she was dating was locked up. She dated my homeboy, and it went fine for a while. He fell in love with her. She seemed to like him. Then the guy that she was dating previously came home from jail, and she stopped dating my homeboy. And you know, so the guy coming home from jail, he had money, he had cars, he had all these things that she was used to. And then he wanted to still be with her, but she was, you know, she was roughing it with him per se. And now she's back with the with the drug dealer. So my homeboy, he starts selling drugs, trying to get money. And he wasn't from this mob, like that wasn't his lane, but he did it. And I'm telling him the whole time, like, why are you doing this? It's not working out. Like, it's not a good idea. He went away to Job Corps. He comes back and he's trying to get money. So he's back into that lifestyle, trying to. And she just does not reconnect with him. It was just like he was just something to do while her guy was locked up. And he could not handle the rejection from her. Right? He could not handle it. And he would call me, we would talk about it. And I got to the point where I was tired of talking about it. Right? She don't like you, move on. Right? That was my vibe. That was the wrong. I mean, it was wrong to say it in the way that I said it. I wanted him to move on. And I just got frustrated with the fact that he didn't see it. You don't see it. She don't like you. Leave her alone. There's other girls out here. Move on. Right? And he called me this one day, and I was running late for work, and I didn't take the time to talk to him, right? Did not take the time to talk to him. I kind of, talk to you, because I felt like he wanted to say the same thing, right? Now, he ended up killing himself after we got off the phone. And for years, that really haunted me because I felt like if I had had that conversation, maybe I could have prevented it. I don't know. I probably would not have been, because I think that my vibe would have been the same that it always had been. Like, yo, leave alone. What are you worrying about it for? Right? You know, we deal with breakups, right? And just because I was able to handle stuff, moved on, no problem, he was not able to do it. This is mental health, but this is in the 90s, right? Mental health was not a buzzword at that time. It wasn't something that people was talking about at that time. So anyway, my friend shoots himself, kills himself. His mother finds him in the house. It was a whole terrible, horrible thing, right? And, so it really gave me a different perspective. Once it took me years to get past the grief and the guilt that I was, shouldering myself, right? And it didn't cripple me, right? But it was very devastating. And I remember seeing a family member of his years later, 10 years later, 10 or 15 years later, seeing a family member of his in a store and just bursting into tears, just years later, it was still affecting me. And up until, I would probably say maybe about 2 or 3 years ago, I was able to kind of reconcile with it a little bit. He came to me in a dream, right? He came to me in a dream about 3 years ago. And we had this conversation. So I guess, this is a dream. So it's like in my subconscious or whatever. So we had this conversation, and that gave me some relief mentally for the situation. I'm saying all that to say this. I've dealt with breakups. I've dealt with rejection. And I felt at the time that he should have been able to deal with that rejection. He should have been able to deal with that. And he couldn't. It was literally more than he could bear. And there are a lot of people who are at different, varying degrees of being able to deal with stress, rejection, pressure, all of these things. So we cannot, judge folks who handle things differently than us. And I myself have struggled with being frustrated. So I had that situation. There have been other situations in my life with other people where I've been frustrated because they don't handle a situation like me. But I always have to bring myself back to my friend who committed suicide because he could not deal with the pressure of rejection. And I'm sure that there are a lot of people out there who have had situations where people may have taken their own life, or maybe tried to hurt themselves, or done something because they could not deal with pressure. This is mental health. This is what we're talking about. So why talking is so important, and listening to folks is so important. Very, very, very important. And so as we continue, of course, Diamond K in here. On social media, I'm at the Diamond K Show, at Radio on Fire. I will be back tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. And we're going to talk about a lot of the news of the day tomorrow. But today I wanted to talk about mental health and how very, very important it is. And it will continue to be. Okay, hey, just Janika, right? All right, so let's do this. Let's take a quick break and come back with more of the show after this. And we are back. You may Diamond K in here at the Diamond K Show, at Radio on Fire on all social media. And as I said, any episodes you miss of the program, Diamond K in the morning, anywhere you get your podcasts, just search Diamond K in the morning. All right. As far as Radio on Fire, and so here's the thing, right? So I'm doing a broadcast, and the phone's going off, and I normally put this thing on silence. So I put this thing on silence. But now I have it. Yes. Now I have it on vibrate, and it's just like it's bothering me. So I gotta say something. I mean, I gotta answer. Anyway, we're talking about mental health. We are talking about Olympic gymnast. I'm all over the place. Olympic gymnast Simone Biles withdrawing from her competition in the Olympics. Right? It already was delayed a year because of the pandemic. So you got that. You have that happening. Delayed for a year. Finally gets there. She's already been to the mountaintop, but the pressure immense. Pressure too much. Now, have we seen other athletes be under pressure, rise to the occasion, time after time after time? Yes, we have. But that doesn't mean that she has that same ability to continue to do that. That doesn't mean that just because we've seen it done, right? Now, she quit. However, we used to just look at things as simple, cut and dry. You quit, you're a quitter. Winners never quit because quitters don't win, right? We used to say stuff like that. And you can still say stuff like that, I suppose. But here's the thing. If you want to take it deeper and look at why someone quits, what is it mentally that makes them say, I don't want to do this anymore? Now, that's taking it to the next level and going deeper into the view of the reason they did whatever they did. That's talking about their mental health. Now, maybe they thought they couldn't win. Maybe they didn't think they were as good as they once were. Maybe they didn't realize the competition was going to be that good. And maybe the pressure and the expectation of winning was more than they could bear. So therefore, they quit. That is absolutely a possible thing. Now, that's mental health, because in their mind, the stress level was so much that they said, you know what? The pressure of me performing at this elite level is too much. What I have to do to get to this point is too much. I don't want to do it anymore. And that's fine. And that's fine. But nowadays we go deeper and we analyze why. And when you start to look at how people deal with their stressful situations, you start to see this priority with mental health. You start to see this priority with mental health, and that is where we are as a society right now. We have a priority for mental health. Now, I used to think that even having this discussion was a sign of weakness. Why are we talking about this? Everybody should be strong, but everybody is not the same level or does not have the same level of strength. So I could talk about this all day. But I want to bring on the very lovely Just Janika. How are you doing?
I am well. How are you?
I'm good. What's going on with you this evening?
Nothing, not a lot. Just was listening in on your show, and I was like, I want to chime in. So thank you for allowing me to.
Absolutely. So, what are your thoughts on mental health? And this is like when we were growing up. This is not even a topic that I don't even think this word even existed. Like this combination of words. It's not even something that people looked at. Like, what are your thoughts on mental health? Is it important?
It absolutely did not exist when we were younger, and it absolutely is important for us to talk about it more and more each day, every day, because there's so many people suffering. And like you were talking about with your friend, who knew?
Right.
Who knew that a breakup will cause somebody to want to end their life? But it's true. It has been true for a long time, but it was not talked about. It was not, especially in our community, in the Black community, it was not talked about. So when someone killed themselves, you rarely knew that they actually killed themselves. You knew they died. You knew they were no longer with us, but you never knew the circumstances in which they actually passed away until probably years later. As a child, I never knew about suicide or people killing themselves. That's just something that was just not spoken about. So yes, it's very important.
Yes. Why do you think in our community, why is it something that's so taboo? Like, why is it tiptoed around so much?
I have no idea. Um, our people, we say, what happens in our house stays in our house, those type of things, which was totally wrong. I mean, that's just how we live. That's what we was taught to live by, how we was taught to do things. And it was totally incorrect because so many things happen in households that children did not speak about because they were afraid to, not only because of the person who maybe have been doing negative or wrong things to them, but because of the parents that were screaming, don't talk about what happens in our house to anybody. When
Right.
those bad things were happening, they should have been screaming it to the rooftop to not only their parents, but to anybody that would listen outside the household, inside the household. So like we just was, I mean, it's crazy. We was taught so many wrong things as children that we now know as adults was just dead as wrong.
Yeah. And then we took that energy and in some instances passed it on to the next generation, to our kids and all of that. So what do you do to keep your mental health in order?
Oh, it's hard. And I wanted to say, I have a 26, I'll be forgetting my children's age because then I'll be telling mine. But anyway,
Mhm.
I have a 26-year-old daughter who still to today will tell me about things that I've said to her or my children at a younger age that was wrong. She's like, "Man, you told me blah, blah, blah." I'm like, wow. Yeah, I was wrong. Mommy was wrong for saying that, not even realizing I was repeating the cycle, not even understanding that. But when she says those things to me today, it's like, yeah, don't listen to me. Don't raise your children like that. And of course, I've learned I do better with my grandchildren and, my children, now. But yeah, it's crazy how we repeat those cycles, but it's time to break those cycles. And I'm sorry, what did you ask me? Because I was trying to hold on to telling you about.
No. It's all good. It's all good. No, I was asking you, like, what do you do to keep your mental health?
Oh, man,
Like, what do you use as a temperature check for yourself?
prayer and talking to trusted people that I trust that will give me sound advice.
Mhm.
That's what I do. At one point I had a therapist that I used to talk to, and she was great for the time frame that I did see her for. But I definitely strongly suggest that people who feel like they are under pressure or stress or anxiety or depression, I strongly recommend that they talk to someone, a professional, if they don't have family and friends. And even if they do have family and friends, I still suggest you talk to a professional because at the time that I was going through what I was going through, my family and friends couldn't help me. I didn't even feel comfortable. I was embarrassed to talk to my family and friends because I didn't understand what was going on with me. I'm like, what the hell? So when I talked to my therapist, that helped me out tremendously, and it got me to the point where I now can talk to family and friends. I can share comfortably now that I've went through the process of talking to a licensed therapist who is taught to and trained to help people with mental health issues.
So when you see the Olympic superstar Simone Biles, when you see her withdrawing from her competition, like what were your thoughts on that?
Super sad.
Yeah.
Super sad, just super sad. It's crazy that I feel like she doesn't have the correct management or people around her to support her enough to push through to get through. I think it was a bad decision. I think that they should not have did her the way they did her, and of course, I strongly believe it's because of her race. Um, but yeah, I'm sad about that.
So when you say they should not have done her the way they did her, what do you mean? Like how do you think they did her?
I don't think that the punishment fit the crime. I think it fit her complexion.
Mm, okay. Okay. Um, so it's when you talk about dealing when people are dealing with stressful situations. And, some people pressure is too much, right? And they say pressure busts pipes, and pressure is too much. When someone feels pressure,
Hmm.
What do you suggest that they do? Like, is it, in the instance of Simone, where she's competing and she decides that she doesn't want to compete anymore? Uh, is there a point where where you're too far in a process that you cannot pull back because of how people are going to view you?
Yeah.
Or what I guess what I'm trying to say is that, is there a point where you have to just tough it out?
That's hard to say because I think that would be individualized. I think some
Yeah.
people mentally are able to tough it out. I think some people are not mentally able to tough it out. Look at Michael Jordan. He took his couple year hiatus because of his mental health, and you would think that he would have been strong enough to tough out the things that was going on in his life. But who knows what somebody's going through? You never know the complete backstory. We know some of the stuff that people share with us, but we never know the complete backstory about what's happening in somebody's life is making them feel like they just don't want to do this anymore. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think if that's her choice, if that was the best decision for herself and her mental health, if it was going to affect her to the point where it was going to affect her mental health, I think then she made the right decision. But I just wish, I guess that's my personal, because I wanted to see her win. I wish that she was able to be strong enough to, continue.
Yeah, and I wanted to see that as well, but I also think that it's possible that she was not as good in her own mind
Mm-hmm.
as she was 4 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and the prospect of not winning or doing worse than what she did before played a part in her confidence and thinking that she could really do it.
And it
And
probably got to be on her that
yeah,
everybody else's expectations.
yeah, yeah, and sometimes that can happen. Of course, she's under a lot more pressure than you and I under in our lives. But I was saying earlier that whatever somebody's going through, whatever their life is, in their own life, it may feel like the pressure of somebody who's in the Olympics because it's in their own world. You know what I mean? And just because they're not a superstar athlete doesn't mean that their pressure is not great.
It doesn't mean that at all. I go through stress and pressures all the time, and my therapist used to tell me, she made up a word, and I kept it going. She said, "Janika, you catastrophize everything. You make it worse than it is." But that's a part of my mental health. That's absolutely part of my mental health, and I understand it. But when I'm in the midst of it, it's hard. Like you said, with your friend and how what he was going through, you had been through it, and it wasn't such a big deal for you. You moved on, and you was able to navigate your life through your life with those rejections and or breakups or whatever
Yeah.
with your life that may have happened in his, but he was not. That's me. Well, that was me. I know I still kind of do it. I ain't gonna front. No, that's me. That's me. I'm definitely, and it's new. It hasn't always been that way. It's been like 4 years that I've been dealing with mental health stuff, and since the beginning, it's been like the smallest things. I just want to run, and if it keeps coming at me, I just straight shut down and feel like it's the worst thing ever, and I just don't want to do this anymore. Like I literally don't want to do it anymore. And like you said, for me, it's tragic for me, even though it's not that big and it wouldn't be that big for somebody else. For me, it is, and that's a part of my mental health, and I understand it. It might take me a day to get out of it. It might take me a week to get out of it. But during that time frame, it's bad.
Yeah, and it's just like, a phobia. Like, some people are scared of spiders, some people are scared of snakes, some
Somebody
people have them as pets, and they're not scared at all. Right. So it's just, you don't know what is a trigger point for the next person. And we try to have more empathy and more understanding for people now. And some people feel like it's made people weaker, or it's we coddle people too much, or you babying them up too much, or something like that. And I can understand that mentality if you're coming from a point where nobody ever babied you up, nobody ever understood your point, so you just were forced to. But now you can kind of loosen up your grip a little bit and try to understand people a little bit better. As far as a new season of Girls Trip, what's going on with that? Can you give us some insight on that?
Well, we're trying to get together. Summertime came.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And do things with their families and stuff like that, building
Yeah.
businesses. We growing. So we're coming back. We're definitely coming back. We're going to meet and talk about the best day and time for us to meet so that we can get
when it get cold outside. They'll be back when it get cold outside.
Yeah, that's how we did.
Yeah. Because right now y'all walking around a little bit of clothes and a lot of sun. I be seeing the pictures. Yeah.
Oh, do you now? Don't judge us. We coming back though. We miss everybody.
Yes.
And so we'll be back.
Oh, that's all. That's very good. I'm looking forward to that. What else? I guess before we go, do you want to leave us with regards to mental health?
What I want to say is to piggyback on what you just said. Like, you have to let some of that go. You have to let some of that stereotypical things go, as far as thinking that people are you're coddling them, or because I did. I promise you, I had a friend who would say it, and to this day, I still don't know for a fact whether or not she would say it in vain or not, like she just wanted to die. But then years ago, I used to be like, she just want attention. But what if those times that she was saying that, I felt that way, and she really did kill herself, I would have been I'd have been feeling horrible, because I would have been judging her like, it's BS. She just wants attention, and she might have felt that way. So I think that we have to be more sensitive to people and their struggles. And even if somebody is just doing or saying things for attention, we just can't automatically assume when somebody says things like that they don't mean it.
Right.
We just can't assume that people don't mean it when they speak about their feelings and the feeling of depression, anxiety, and not wanting to be here anymore, because it's real. And I would have never in a million years thought that was something I would have done, but I did. And I didn't tell anybody. I never said it before I did it. But it doesn't mean that somebody else who speaks about it prior to doesn't mean that that's how they really feel. So I think that people should definitely pay attention and do a self-check within themselves, and be a little more sensitive to people and how they feeling.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's real.
Yeah.
Really real.
It is absolutely real. I really appreciate you coming on and being super transparent about.
I have to come back and tell my story.
Absolutely. We definitely got to do that. We definitely got to do that. I definitely appreciate the transparency, because a lot of people just are not comfortable with being that transparent.
I wasn't for a while. It took me a while, and therapy definitely helped with that. But now, the more I used to couldn't tell my story without crying. Every single time I went to share, and I wanted to share, but it was just still so very emotional for me. But today, I think I'm able to tell my story without crying. I know I am. I can tell my story without crying, because I definitely know that for me, it was really real. And I think that people knowing my story may help them, even people that I don't know and people that I do know, because so many people don't know that I attempted suicide. So many people, because I posted once a year. I don't beat it over people's head. Like, some people talk about the same thing over and over again. I don't. I share it once a year, my annual, when the date that I actually attempted suicide, I'll share it on social media. But and so many people reach out to me every year who are shocked to know that I did that and speak about their own personal struggles. So I definitely want to talk about it more on a platform where more people can view and hear, and know that you don't have to do that, that there is help out there for you, and there's a better way other than taking your own life.
Absolutely. I want to make that a point of a discussion. And so I'm gonna talk to you behind the scenes, but maybe we can do that next week. I think that'd be good. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Huh?
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on.
Okay.
All right. So that was Just Janika from Girls Trip. And so you heard her say they're going to be back soon, probably in the fall, winter, or something like that. So that'll be good, and looking forward to that. Of course, I will be back tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. for the top news stories of the day. I appreciate everybody at the Diamond K Show at Radio on Fire, and I will see you all tomorrow.